Welcome to the Accountants Exposed podcast, where we create light bulb moments for our listeners by exposing the journeys, secrets, and insights of some of the top players in accounting. This podcast is brought to you by Michael Edelstein, Director and Founder of Recruitment Expert, a specialist accounting recruitment agency working across Australia, New Zealand, and Asia Pacific. Ladies, gentlemen, and accountants, I'm excited to have Lynda Steffens from the Small Business Project on the podcast today. I had the pleasure of meeting and interviewing Lynda at the Accounting and Business Expo, and she has taken an overused phrase that we're all sick and tired of hearing, business advisory. And with her 30 plus years experience in practice and her passion for helping clients, she has systemized the approach and the implementation, but more importantly, she tackles the mind shift, or shifts for some of you guys, that's necessary to succeed in this worthwhile endeavor. So, listen in and enjoy. But before you go, from the feedback I've had, many of you love listening to the podcast and have recommended it to your friends and colleagues. The ones that haven't, you know who you are. Spread the word so we can raise the standard in the industry. And also, give me some love. Let me know what you like, dislike, comment on LinkedIn, send me an email. Otherwise, this becomes a very lonely labor of love. Enjoy. Hi, Lynda. Thank you so much for making the time to join me on the podcast today.
Thanks, Michael. It's great to be here.
Now, we met at the Accounting and Business Expo not that long ago, and you had a very catchy title. Do you remember what it was?
Of course I remember what it was. So our catchy title for my presentation was Why Advisory as We Know It is Not the Answer to Increasing Value in Your Firm.
Okay, and what made you come up with a title like that one?
Well, we want to educate accountants around what advisory is or what they know it is now and what we feel really connects to the market. And we don't believe they're quite doing that just yet. So
what's that difference there that you're talking about?
Yeah, so I think the difference is that we're not meeting clients where they are as accountants and with our services or our explanation or positioning of our services. So our services are very valuable and they will absolutely help our clients, but it's the way we talk about them, the way we deliver them. We don't know really how to translate them in a way that clients can understand them.
Can you give me an example, something specific, so that people can get an idea of exactly what you're referring to?
Yeah, sure. So let's take a cash flow forecast, for example. Now, that's very useful for looking at actual results, learning what good months are doing. What did we do? We want to repeat that. We had a not so good month. Let's not repeat what happened in that not so good month. But when an accountant talks about that to a client, they'll say, let's do a cash flow forecast. They won't explain what it does for the client or what they can learn, or they won't connect it then with increasing their turnover or increasing their staff efficiency. And so we've got to be able to have a way to obtain from the client what they really want to achieve in business. And when you do that, then as accountants, we've got the opportunity to line our services up with what a client truly wants to achieve. At the moment, there's a disconnect. We're not meeting clients where they are. They can't really understand us or see the value or relatability in what we do.
Okay, and what's the path to achieving that from your perspective?
Well, I think there's definitely a little bit of education, opening our mind to different ways of doing things. At the moment, I think particularly around advisory services, we're really just trying to do them like we've always done before, which is like compliance. So when we talk about them, clients like, that sounds a lot like more compliance that I don't want to pay for. And then we get stuck in that, and we get that same fee resistant.
As in, like when they're offering them,
Yeah.
say, to do a cash flow forecast, and like
Yeah.
they're offering to charge extra for that.
Exactly. So the
Okay.
client goes, no, that's just more compliance. I don't want to do that. When really it could help them achieve their business goals. But the path forward is looking at a different way of doing that, and how you do that instinctively as an accountant, who we just are as accountants, and not feeling like we have to sell or do anything like that.
Okay. So what is the right way of approaching that with a client? Like, what do you teach your clients who are accounting firms? Or, if you were running one, how would you approach that so that you are becoming more and more proficient in business advisory?
Yeah. So I think the first thing that you have to do is to step back and look at who we are instinctively as accountants and what we value and how we go about understanding the world. And the first thing is that we are extremely information driven and detail driven. So the more information we get, the better. So the first step is teaching an accountant the process around gathering information from a client. So we talk about gathering information in more than a financial sense. We're used to getting a tiny little bit of information around previous financial accounts, tax returns, those sorts of things that we would normally get. But to do advisory successfully, you need a whole lot more information. So what's been happening, Michael, is we've been feeding this negative cycle of accountants can't sell, accountants are not successful with advisory, because we've been trying to do it without the information we've needed. And so then it feels very, very wrong, quite fraudulent. I'm just selling something. I'm not really sure what that is, because we haven't filled our information bucket to feel confident to move forward.
Because it feels very vague, you're saying.
Very vague. Yeah. It has no detail. Yeah.
Let's go back to fundamentals then, because, as you said before, everyone kind of brandishes the term around business advisory, but how would you define it? What is the definition that you're comfortable with?
Yeah. So that's the thing. The definition is unique to you, is unique to your firm. It essentially, at its core, advisory is anything you don't have to do. As in,
anything you don't have to do. I like that. Okay.
Anything. It can be anything from a bookkeeping audit or a review of a chart of accounts right up to CFO management accounts and, high level advisory and succession type planning. That's the other extreme. So it's anything you don't have to do as a business to keep up your compliance requirement or your statutory obligations.
Based on your clients and your advice to them, where do you guide them to get started on that advisory path? Like, what should they start offering that's nice, practical, and a good stepping stone?
We start very simply when we're helping them build out an advisory solution, and it involves a cash flow budget and just regularly meeting with a client on a monthly basis to talk about what happened this month, what can we learn, good or bad, where are we now in the month, and how do we achieve the target that we set for this month? What do we need?
Okay.
So
we more cash flow.
Very simply. Yeah, very, very simply.
And how would you price that?
So there's a couple of different pricing points, and I always take the opinion that it's dependent on your client base, so how sophisticated the clients are that you have. And of course, in accounting, we have a very broad range of the clients that we deal with. I think there's two pricing points when you're trying to encourage clients to engage in a regular ongoing advisory relationship. And I think that's around the $500 mark and then around the $1,000 mark
per month. Okay. And is there a minimum size of client that accounting firm should be targeting?
No, because I think the thing is that self-assessment. Who are we to decide as the professional whether client wants these services or not?
Is there a guideline? Or would you say 1 million turnover, 2 million turnover?
No.
Million profit? No?
You'd be surprised who wants them. I think it's all back to if you put what you can offer around your services to a client, it will always help anybody. It's about the willingness to pay for that, or the seeing the value in it, isn't it? Really. So,
and how do you determine whether it's 500 or 1,000?
Well, that certainly is to do with if you're dealing with a mum and dad partnership, or maybe a trust, or something that it does come back to affordability. So, a $500,000 to $1 million turnover company is maybe willing to try $500 a month for 6 months to see how it goes.
And that would just be cash flow?
Yeah, that's exactly all it would be.
And then each thing would be an extra charge
correct.
on top of that? Or?
Yeah, depending on what they needed. But that's the place to start. If you had a more sophisticated business, in that they had a number of entities, you're dealing with bigger family groups, perhaps instead of just talking with one person on a monthly basis, you're talking to a leadership group of 3, then that's a different scenario. So it depends on who your client is and what their needs are.
Okay. And who would be doing this? Would it be the partner? Would it be a manager? Would it be a senior accountant? A junior can even do this?
Yes. We believe that anyone with 5+ years in public practice can do advisory following our process.
5 years experience.
5 years. Because
that's the cutoff. Okay.
Yeah, because there's technical skill involved in understanding what you're doing as an accountant. And secondly, you need to have seen enough businesses to be able to understand the basic business mechanics,
Which is business now, basically.
Exactly. It's a bit of business now. So if I pull this lever, what will happen? If I pull that lever, will that go up or down? So it's those mechanics that you naturally achieve after dealing with many SMEs over your career.
Okay. Are there particular skill sets or training that a senior accountant with 5 years experience would need to go from a typical compliance business services tax accountant to being able to deliver that business advisory service?
No, I don't think so.
They're just turning on the tap, basically, or flicking the switch.
From our perspective, it comes down to having a process. So it's not really about your skill. It's not about your soft skills. It's not about whether you're a good conversationalist or you're not, or whether you're an introvert or an extrovert. It's really about following a process.
Okay. And I think that's kind of the tenet of your organization is you come in and you deliver show your clients a process that they can follow and give them basically, from A to B to Z kind of thing.
Yes, because, look, and this is why there's been a lot of suppliers or in the market to accountants talking about advisory for a long time now.
100%.
And there's been, rather mixed success around advisory, or not, the majority of firms aren't seeing success in advisory. And so I think a lot of people have talked about why you should do it. We all understand why we should do it. We've got the concept of what it is for the most part. It's the how you actually do it. Now, when we see particular people or firms do very well with advisory, and they are out there, they're definitely out there, you've normally got a rather enigmatic leader that is just doing it naturally. And they're following their own process, but it's a real just natural instinctive thing. And then that's where we've developed this idea that we have to be a conversationalist, we have to have great skills in that area, we have to be able to sell. We don't. We've broken that all down into follow this process and it will work.
Yeah, okay. Can you give me an example of what the process looks like?
Oh gosh, how long is a piece of string?
Well, like for example, when you come in and it's a brand new client, I've never really done advisory. What is once they've left your coaching, what are the biggest changes that you see in their workflows or processes having followed your advice?
Perfect. Actually, I was just talking to a firm in the US this morning that we were explaining this to. So accountants tend to think that their services are the hero of what they are doing, and they will always lead with the services. Okay. Our clients don't necessarily understand what those services are or what they will deliver for them. So it's really a path of discovering from the client what they want to achieve, and then it's up to us as the accountants to match our services to them, not wait to be asked for a service. So it's a different way of looking at it. It's a more discovery journey, a more gather the information, then we give the advice. So I talk about it as the client needs a reason before they need an answer. All our services are answers. So we've got to work out what the reason is they need to work with us, and we need to gather information to be able to do that.
Okay. So does your process then involve going through a series of questions?
Yes, it does. It has a series of meetings. It has a series of questions. It has scripts. Only to get started, we actually encourage our students to make the scripts their own, to actually speak how they would speak and use the words they would use. But they are there to get them started. So scripts, lists of questions, everything that you start to learn, that it does just then, once you experience it the first couple of times, it becomes quite instinctual to yourself. But they pick it up very quickly, very quickly.
Do you show a process on delivery as well?
Yes, we do. Yes, that's all part of it. So when you come into doing this training, the Business Metamorphosis Advisor training, it really is about coming in, learning a different way of looking at things, a different approach to doing advisory. We help you with what those services will be. We show you how to talk to a client, when to talk to the client, what to talk to them about, help you with what the service delivery is, and then how to actually deliver it. So when do I send the proposal? When do I follow them up? What do I say when I follow them up? And also, too, we have the implementation side of things. So there's plenty of times, and I had another practitioner say this to me just the other day, Lynda, I've done all these coaching things before, but I go back to my full-time job, and then guess what happens? I don't do anything. So
this was my other question too, is so once a month, I know I have firms that obviously offer, management accounting or some sort of advisory stuff on a quarterly basis, which I think is kind of semi-manageable and depending on how your firm is leveraged. But monthly, for a busy practice, especially in the current market where everyone's struggling for staff, how do you find the time to deliver, probably at least an hour plus the prep time, plus the, the cash flow prep, to deliver that service and also keep up with your compliance work and practice management?
Yeah. Well, there has to be a small amount of capacity there to start with. That's ideal. But the thing is, accountants, the way they approach advisory now, think that there is actually a lot of prep. There actually is no prep. The way because we are driven by what the client wants to talk about. Now, that's very scary for us because it's unstructured. It could go anywhere. It's like, oh my gosh, what if I don't know the answer to a question that the client asks me?
Well, I think I'm just thinking preparing the cash flow forecast properly, and then also sitting down, I'm thinking how I would do it as an accountant. I would need to prepare it, or someone in my team would have to prepare. And then before the meeting, I would probably have to kind of scan through it to identify certain issues or potentials for improvement.
So that's you thinking you've got to give the answer again. So we flip this entirely around to the fact that you are not the expert as the accountant. You are not the expert in the client's business. The client is. So our job as an accountant doing business improvement advisory is about facilitating their own learning journey and their ability to do the legwork, to do the hard work. The accountant doesn't come up with the answers at all. So there's very little prep work. It's very different to advisory as we know it.
Yeah, okay. So they would just sit there.
I would say there's very little prep, and you should keep it simple, because if you think about it, how many times has an accountant put a very detailed cash flow together, gone off the information they thought they had, spent hours and hours and hours putting this detailed cash flow together, get in with the client, and the client just says, no, I don't want to achieve that. And you're back to square one.
I mean, imagine if you're going to prepare a cash flow forecast and invest so many hours, the client would have wanted it, no?
Exactly. So I think it's keep it simple. We keep it simple to start with. You can always get more detailed after that, but we're trying to guess what the client wants based on our perspective and what we know. Our perspective does not matter in advisory. Our perspective matters in compliance. We need the answers then. But in advisory, it's about the client's journey. And
okay, so then what are you delivering as an accountant in an advisory piece if it's not about you as the expert?
So it's about you facilitating their education, their learning, showing them insights that you have as an accountant to actually pinpoint to help them make better decisions. So it's more of an educational coaching type feel than it is about just go away and do this, because people generally don't like to be told what to do. If you try to tell somebody what to do, you'll get a mixed reaction. Some will do it, some won't. You're not really garnering engagement by using that approach. So we take a lot of coaching methodology in what we do and train our accountants to use coaching methodology so that they can engage the client in the journey, and the client ends up coming up with the answers. And if they need then additional services from the client, then you go off and get them. That's why the products are priced at $500 a month and $1,000 a month, when we know a full CFO service, which is advisory as we know it, costs a lot more than that to prepare per month. We're not talking about that at all. Very different.
And does everyone kind of tend to stay around that cash flow piece, or is it just a baby step and then usually there's more add-ons to that?
It's a baby step. There's more add-ons to that, but we have to start somewhere, and it's the best place to start is somewhere that you're quite comfortable and confident in to begin with, which is numbers and a cash flow forecast.
Okay. And what's the next, say, 2 steps after that?
Well, it depends on your own interests. I think this is where it gets exciting, because you can do what you want to do as an accountant and what you find your clients benefit from the most. From my perspective, I do this work. I don't even start with cash flow anymore because I don't like that. I've never really liked them. My skill is very much in organisational structure. And so organisational structure, roles, productivity, efficiency, looking at that, but using the numbers to tell me or to spot where there's a problem.
Okay. Where's the intersection between what an accountant would do in that case and a business coach?
Yeah. So
are you replacing a business coach, or is it can they still work side by side?
Yes, they can. Yes, and I do that because I bring a very numbers lens, numbers sense to things. So I'm following the story that the numbers are telling me, and I'm coming off of that perspective. And I do think that this is the missing piece that business coaches generally do not have. So where I think business coaches fall into this generally now, or what we know business coaches as, they're very much more sales and marketing focused people. And they have skills in that area. I don't. And I don't hold myself out to be a sales or marketing specialist. But I can see patterns and analysis and things in numbers where it's pointing to me that something is wrong. So let's then delve into that and together work out what that problem is. That's what I think accountants can do here.
And as you said, like after 5 years of experience, you've seen kind of businesses that
you've seen enough
across different industries. You've seen enough to be able to sit down without too much prep, look at numbers and pinpoint, hey, I think there might be some issues there. Tell me a bit more about what's going on. What happened last month.
Look, if you're perfect for accounting, I guarantee that after a couple of years at looking at trial balances or profit and loss, or any financial statement for that matter, columns of numbers, that looks weird. You can point to something. It
becomes instinctual, right?
It's instinctual. We see patterns.
And that's why you say you don't need much prep.
No.
Most like.
Yeah. No, and you want to talk about when you're doing this business improvement advisory, you're wanting to connect with the client. You want the client to see value in it. So you should talk about what the client wants to talk about, not what you want to talk about. So it's putting structure around that. So as an accountant, we feel safe enough to be able to do that. At the moment, and with the way we've been shown to do things in the past, we've never felt safe to go down that path. So having this process allows you to feel safe. And
are there any systems or tech that you have to implement to make this work?
No, none.
None. Okay.
Which is a beautiful thing.
Yes. Makes it a lot. And how long would it take us, to take that, like from zero to getting clients on board and actually delivering the service? And what's the typical time frame?
Yeah. So from doing zero advisory, that's what you're asking me?
Yeah.
So our it does depend how motivated you are, but we see our students, the course is 12 weeks of training, 12 weeks of knowledge, and then it is 8 weeks of implementation. So it's 20 weeks in total.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not a quick thing.
No,
Is it like an hour a week, or what's the time expectation?
On average, around 4 hours a week.
4 hours a week.
So it's a full immersion into doing this differently.
And that's a combination of you guys being on site and online, or how does that mix work?
So there's some online training, there's videos, there's workbooks, there's things to read, there's those normal things you would find in an online course. And then there is a weekly live coaching call that happens with me.
And this is 20 weeks to getting your first client on board as a business. Oh, okay. Because I was like, that's a very long time frame.
Yes, let me step back to that. So we see clients start inviting clients into a advisory relationship from about week 4.
Okay. Gotcha.
From the time when they feel confident, it's about building their confidence, Michael. It's not about the fact that they couldn't do it. They could absolutely do it. But we've just seen a recent student now. He was inviting clients and doing meetings while he was in the 12 weeks. I think he secured his first paid meeting about 3 weeks into the implementation. So 3 weeks into the 8 weeks. And he's done 3 more since, and he has 2 clients on regular packages as a result.
Okay. Back to the capacity question, especially in the last 18 months or 24 months now, where staffing has been an issue. Where are you meant to come up with this capacity from? Like, are there steps you're getting your clients to do to create that capacity, or do they just need to get more hours, or do they need to offshore? Do they need to automate stuff? Like what are they meant to do to create to be able to even deliver the service right now when they're flat out just with the regular tax planning and compliance work? Yeah,
it can be a real push. I think that we need to have a very good look at how our practices are set up, and look, there's elements in creating capacity. Are we pricing correctly? Do we have the right people in the right jobs? Are our teams set up efficiently to be able to do the work we need at the appropriate cost levels?
And you look at that as well during your program?
Not during the program, no. That's a whole nother exercise. So if that gets identified, we can certainly, we help some, but there are, other organisations out there that do that very well. And so, we would be making a recommendation to one of them. We do help some.
And what's the ROI on your program or this process? Because it's sounds like it's a big time investment as well.
It's it's definitely a time investment. And of course there's a financial one as well. So it depends all on how much you're going to work it as an accountant. If you get serious about it, you can easily get 5 times ROI in about 6 to 12 months.
6 to 12 months, okay. And ROI, the financial ROI or your time ROI?
Financial.
Okay.
I think all the way along you will start to get capacity as well, Michael. I think, you start doing some things right and then everything else starts to fit in and flow after that. So...
Okay. Are there other benefits of doing this besides, I guess, financial ROI?
Absolutely. It's more, well, not, I shouldn't say that across the board. I was going to say it's more interesting work. But, you know, for some accountants, which is quite fine, they love their compliance, they love their technical side of things and just very happily sit in that space. And we need accountants that are there too. But there is also a group of accountants that don't enjoy that quite so much. And so they want to do different things, and they're hearing the pain from their clients and they don't know how to help. They don't have the tools in the toolbox to help their clients. So for those accountants, this process gives you a way to work on that more meaningful, purpose-driven work for us. Come back to why we became an accountant in the first place. So I think that at an industry perspective, industry-wide, we're starting to lose ourselves, and we're seeing amazing professionals go out of the industry or want to exit the industry because it's overwhelming, it's stressful, I don't like it anymore, I'm not in love with it anymore. And we're having trouble attracting young talent to the industry as well. So we've got to do something at an industry level. I think we're all obligated to do something here.
Problem is, when I speak to junior accountants, none of them want to wait 5 years before they do advisory work. They want to be doing advisory work after, 6 months, 12 months, 18 months.
Yes.
No one wants to do the grunt work anymore.
I think the thing is too, is that, that's a good thing. And I'm going to go down a different path with this now, but we've got to also look at where our talent pool's coming from. And then they do want different things. That's an important thing to consider as a business owner. What do they want? How do we offer that? And there's parts of this process that they could certainly be involved in. They might not be running it from start to finish, but there's certainly parts of the process they'd be able to be involved in under 5 years. So
okay. Especially if you take them to client meetings and actually demonstrate how you do
involve them in client meetings. See, they will soon get a gist of most of them will go, oh no, wait, I do need some more, street cred or time on the tools before I'd be confident doing that on my own. So
Lynda, what made you get into accounting?
What made me get into accounting? Well, at the age of 14 was the first time I came across debits and credits and double entry bookkeeping, and early. And it just brought this
love at first sight,
natural order to the world, Michael, that I had it blew my mind. I was hooked right from that moment. It all made sense. It was like, the dominoes that just go.
Was it a course at school or something?
Yeah, it was a school subject.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. It's amazing. I come across it. I'm like, my school never, I can't even imagine a school offering accounting, and I can't imagine any teenager going, yep, I want to enroll in that course.
It just made sense to me, Michael. It's just who I am. And that's why I want to tell other accountants, celebrate that. We're amazing. We're exactly right where we need to be. It's just about rounding out our careers around having a look at what we really want to do and bringing that purpose back to what we do every day. So,
okay. Yeah. Look, for those not familiar with your career, I guess to summarize it, you've been a partner, you split from the partnership, went out on your own, you sold your practice, and then you kind of went down the practice management route, and then the advisory coaching now.
Yes.
Now, one of the things that I remember you telling me is you kind of fell out of love with tax.
I sure did.
So not necessarily accounting, but tax, / accounting, I guess.
The technical aspects of that, really compliance. I fell out of love because as I was saying before, I was that person that could see pain in my clients and I didn't know what to do with them.
When you say that, pain, like what was just businesses failing or?
Yeah, not businesses failing, but business owners wanting advice, wanting me to tell them what they should do or how they should go about it. And I had no way of navigating that. It's like, I can do a cash flow for you or I can do your tax returns, but that wasn't helping them on a day-to-day real-time basis. I had no structure, no one to tell me or help me, support me and as to how to have a conversation or what to do with them. I was just completely lost. And after a little bit of time, it's like, oh, I'm sick of this. I just don't feel like I'm helping. I really need to help people. That's very much who I am. And I felt like I was failing them. So I completely fell out of love with the technical aspect of accounting. Almost left the industry. Almost. I was so close. Yes, but I didn't.
And how did you go about learning those skills?
Yeah. So I went on a journey of education. We're lifelong learners as accountants. It's another big skill that we have, is we love to learn. And so I went on a journey of education. I studied psychology, I studied neurolinguistic programming, I studied coaching, and I did all of those. And went into practice management, which has more of a HR feel and a business performance feel than, obviously doing compliance or working with clients every day. So it was the combination of all of those experiences. Speaking, learned how to put together a speaking presentation, public speaking, all of those different types of dynamics that you wouldn't think of ever learning as an accountant necessarily. And so I've taken snippets of all of that, and it's evolved into what I now teach today.
And do you think you would be your experience or your approach to accounting in the past is representative of it, like a typical partner practitioner in the industry?
So yes, I would think so. I do think a lot can end up in a day-to-day that they never really signed up for.
Just to clarify, like when you said there was pain in your clients, or you could feel there was pain, but you couldn't really do anything about it. What does that really mean? And what would you do differently now? If you're running a practice now, how would you deal with that kind of pain, and what does that pain actually refer to?
Well, I'd have a different way of navigating it. So I'd actually be able to navigate finding the information that could get to the heart of what that pain was. If that pain was, something that I was not particularly skilled in, then I, would have a strategic alliance or someone in my network that I could say, go see these people. They will be able to help with that pain.
Yeah.
But I had no way of working out what it was or really where this was coming from. But I do think too, I did do instinctually a lot of teaching when I was doing compliance. I would teach people how to do their books or how to understand them or how to read the profit and loss.
Yeah.
And so that helped, and I think that's still a big part of what we should be doing as accountants. But there's lots of different things, and I think that's where I really love to specialise in organisational structure now, because it makes a huge difference when you've got a growing business, a business of 1 million turnover to a business of 5 million or even 10 million turnover. They're structured very differently, not just from are we in a trust, a partnership or a company, but structured internally very differently. And people need to understand their roles and their responsibilities and how it all fits together, and what that path looks like and what that means as the overall journey for the company. So that's what I find the most interesting.
So basically you acquired more tools that would allow you to do it at hindsight now.
And you do that just by doing what you do. So it's just through experience. And often I know when I am working with SMEs or I'm working with my accounting clients, there'll be something that I'll experience with one client and I'm like, I wonder if that'll work with this one, and we'll just talk about it. And I approach it with so much curiosity these days, Michael. It's all about curiosity. I have no pressure on me to have an answer, and it's about being able to just facilitate that flow of discussion and sharing ideas and collaboration. And it's the most rewarding work I've done in 30 years of my life.
And as you said before, I think the work is interesting, and it's an attraction/retention tool for staff, because a lot of our candidates are constantly asking, or leaving roles that are compliance-based and asking for a firm or a practice that has more advisory, because it's more engaging and it's interesting work. And there's only so many ATO reports and reconciliations you can look at. So definitely as a strategy, and I like the fact that you said it's part of it, yes, some extra tools, some knowledge, but a lot of it is just a mind shift and
it's a mind shift
in your approach.
Yes, it's very much a mind shift, and we say that we use 4 pillars throughout our training, and the first and most apparent one is mind shift, mindset change. So it's mindset, and we have a advisor framework. Then we look at your capability and bringing that up, and then of course we look at implementation. So, but it very mindset based.
When you mentioned before, one of the greatest challenges for accountants is they're used to having answers, and it scares them when they don't have answers. And your approach to advisory is being comfortable with that. How do you deal with that when you're having a conversation with a client? They say, well, Lynda, what should I do with this? I'm having issues with that, and you don't really have an answer. What does your process or approach look like in that scenario?
Yeah. So the first thing is that we put some structure in place. So we have a model that we work with that is effectively the life cycle of a business. And so what we can do is we use that as a translation device between accountant and client to help us pinpoint where they are, what might be going wrong. So it's a grid model, and we just look at where that problem might be coming from or where that pain might be coming from. Then from there, it's about, as problem solvers, we're amazing problem solvers as accountants, big processing superpower in our brains. That's who we are. And our natural reaction is someone asks us a question or gives us some sort of pain, we want to solve it straight away. So the mindset shift is, wait, I need more information. So let's ask more questions. The more questions you ask, all of a sudden the answer will come. And it may not come from you. It may come as a combination of answering those questions. The client might go, oh, I know what I got to do. I got to do this, don't I? And you go, yeah, that's a really good idea.
And do you equip your clients with those questions?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Yes, we do. They're surprisingly small, and questions that you wouldn't think. It's something as simple as what else.
Yeah, it's true. It's just a lot of open-ended questions.
Yeah,
it's what I teach my guys in recruitment as well.
That's it.
Look, as you said before, some people just come as naturally. Like as a child, I was always hyper curious, like ridiculously curious, to the point that I annoy everyone around me with the amount of questions I ask, which, why recruitment and business coaching for me is very natural.
Yes.
But I agree, from a societal perspective, there's a lot of discomfort of probing too much.
Yes.
And I feel like that's always an impediment for people to ask
Yes, it is.
questions.
And particularly with the communication profiles that we see accountants generally have.
The introvertness?
Well, no, more the supportive nature. So we're extremely supportive in how we go about things. So we quite like someone telling us what they want, and then we can go and do it.
I remember you said you studied it. You actually profiled a whole bunch of practitioners.
Yeah, I did. So hundreds of accountants have gone through 2 profiles that I use, and we have a lot of very similar natural instincts and traits. And
what are the trend lines that you spotted? So you say supportive as a
communication style. Highly.
What are the other styles? Sorry, I don't know which profile systems you use.
So I use DISC, and so it's dominance, influence, steadiness, and conscientiousness. And so that's what DISC stands for. And what we see, the profile is generally a lot of high S and high C energy. So supportive communication with a lot of detail and exactness about it, and very little emotion. Emotion. And so decisions we are a little more comfortable with not having to make a decision, not having decisions made for us, but somebody else sort of saying, I would like this, rather than you going, we need to do this. So that's the dominant person or communication style. And so we don't see a lot of that. But the thing to remember about all of this and everything is that we all have these energies in us, a small amount. So
Yeah.
it's about, do I choose to dial it up or dial it down? That's our
Yeah.
choice once we understand what's there. So it's
Okay.
conscious awareness and conscious choice. So we talk a lot about mindset, a lot about who we are, and that's something that I'd like to get into a lot more around emotional IQ, leadership, and utilizing then what soft skills can we utilize to take our leadership journey up another step. So that's something in the development stage for Lynda Steffens. Keep watching.
Okay. You mentioned one of your 4 kind of pillars of the framework is capability.
Yes.
So what does that look like to kind of increase your capability?
Yeah, practicing.
Okay.
Yeah,
Got you.
pretty much practicing. So I don't want to scare any accountants out there that are listening to this, but you do have to practice. You do have to talk out loud, and you do need to do that. And unless we do that,
like role playing, you mean, or
dare I say that awful word of role play? So yes, in a very safe, small environment. So we keep it very safe. It's okay. And but yes, it is that, because if you don't do that, all you're doing is getting stuck in knowledge mode. Knowledge mode gets you nowhere.
Quick question for you, and I guess this is kind of, for our younger listeners. In hindsight, what would you have done differently throughout your career or in your career? So i.e., what would you be advising young accountants these days to be conscious of?
Yeah. Oh, that's a tough one, because I'm certainly a person that looks forward, not backwards. So I don't know that I would have done anything differently. I would have loved someone like me being around when I was back there. So I think it is educate yourself in areas that would not be typically considered accounting. So
a bit more well-rounded.
Yes, yeah. So whether that is some coaching methodology or public speaking or basic psychology, and marketing would be another fabulous one. Marketing's its own science in itself,
because it would help you in your own practice.
Absolutely.
Well.
It will help you be able to speak and relate to clients.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of, I think, spread your wings when it comes to your education and round out a lot of other areas that may push you out of your comfort zone, but from a professional standpoint will put you in a much better place.
Okay. You mentioned coaching methodology a few times.
Yeah.
What does that refer to exactly?
Yeah.
Is there a particular resource that people should look at?
No, it's really what I've learned and gathered from doing some coaching training myself, being coached myself. So I walk my own talk, and delving into what that coaching methodology is. So it's really about that we are a facilitator of learning, not a deliverer of answers. And so it's a mindset shift. It's a different way of looking at how we provide value. And
Okay. Is it, but any particular resource or book or coaching that you've had that's like, this is amazing, like everyone should definitely read this or do this?
No, that one I don't. I mean, there's elements of that in my book, but no, I didn't. I actually took a course in coaching, and so
which course?
So it's one here, the Sharon Jerd Institute, and so she's a local coach here on the Gold Coast who taught me about coaching. Yeah, and what that means. It really opened my eyes, Michael. I think we have, in accounting, we have a certain opinion of what coaching is and what sales are, for that matter, and it really is not quite right. And when we understand what it really is and what it does, then we can understand how to use some of the techniques that they use.
Okay.
Yeah.
And look, I guess you've been in the industry for a very long time now. You've seen a lot of changes.
I have.
What, like, if you had to choose one or two that have had the greatest impact on the profession, what would they be?
Oh, gosh. Well, certainly GST had a huge impact here in Australia from a technical standpoint. And, I remember being, where was I in that? How old was I in that point? It really rocked how a firm delivered their services to clients. Things changed a lot, and then obviously having to look at accounting software and the evolution of that and how clients use that and the love and hate relationship accountants have with that. That was very big. Yeah. So
okay. Well, I know you said you like to look at the future. So what does the future hold for the profession? Like, what do they need to start preparing for, and how?
Yeah. Look, I think the thing is, compliance will never be dead. It will always be there, but the way that it is prepared or completed is definitely changing. We've got to look at, because clients don't value compliance. It's just something that has to be done. It's a business.
It's necessary evil.
It's necessary evil, yes.
Just like recruiters.
Yes. And so, look, it's very important, and there's some amazing work that we can do in that compliance space. So I'm not devaluing that from an accountant's, viewpoint, but it's really about the perspective of our clients and how they look at that. And if we're to be successful business owners going forward, it's really about taking a good look at what our clients want, how we can help them, and to be guided by that. And I don't think we've been doing that as accountants. I don't think we've been really playing that vital role in a business relationship, because we've had really no one or nothing to really guide us in that path. There's a lot of us that are trying. There's a lot of us that are out there trying advisory, trying to do it, but just, not navigating it fabulously, or finding some measure of success or small amounts of success, and not the success we would like. So,
Lynda, why do you think there's been a push for advisory in the first place, like over the last 10 years, 5-10 years? Like, it's just a buzzword, advisory, especially in the last, couple of years. Well, like, if you're running a good practice, it's growing, you're doing compliance work, is there really even a need for it?
Yes, there is, because our business inputs and our capacity, staffing, all of that's changing. A modern business these days, and particularly now just in the last 2 years, our world viewpoint has changed dramatically. So people want to work differently. They want to do more purposeful work, and we're seeing that come from our talent pool of younger people. And so as business owners, we've got to adjust to that and move with that. And so that's why we definitely, as accounting business owners, we need to move with that too. Because who are we going to hire if our business model is all about chargeable hours and time? Well, we're running out of people. We've got no people now. So how do we create profitable businesses when we're getting, a real push, or it's really hard to find good people, pricing in a market that's not, we're at our price limits when it comes to compliance. So it's really having a good look at our business models, Michael, I think, and we need to move with the times. We've got to look at where our talent pools are. What do they want? We've got to look at more valuable services to our client to create businesses that, obviously help our clients and help them improve, but then are successful for us. Business is a risky business, and, so you want to get the rewards that you deserve. And I see too many accountants not getting those rewards.
Really? Okay. Because the beauty of accounting firms or businesses is it's generally a nice, stable, predictable business model. It's recurring income, which is very rare in a service-based model.
It is. What you're seeing though is profit margins are declining
because of staff wages. Because
of technology, because of the value of compliance.
Okay.
So I believe, I've been talking about this ever since I wrote my book, but the accounting industry and those traditional businesses we're fast approaching a tipping point. So yes, it has been very profitable and, you know, set up traditionally like that, but I think that's changing.
Yeah, okay. And I'm wondering, what advice do firms find the hardest to accept or implement?
Advice sorry, what advice should I give firms?
No. Like, when you do give them advice or, you know, processes to follow, whatever to implement, what advice or aspects of the implementation do they find the hardest to accept or to implement?
Yeah, I think it's just around exactly what we were just talking about there, changing things, innovation, change, looking at things differently. And that just takes time. When we're talking about accountants and how we're made up, we do change very well, actually, but we need time and information to be able to navigate it well. So anybody, if there's any other suppliers out there listening, that's what accountants need. Time and information, and then they'll change with the best of them. So, you know.
Lynda, before we head to our rapid fire questions, what's the best way for listeners to get in touch with you if they wish to learn more?
They wish to learn more, the best way is catch up or connect with me on LinkedIn. That's probably the best way, Lynda Steffens, and or they can email me directly at lynda@lyndasteffens.com.
Excellent. Some rapid fire questions. What's your favorite quote?
Small hinges swing big doors.
Small hinge. I like that. I haven't come across that one.
That you haven't come across that one? There you go.
What's the attribution?
Well, it's really about you don't have to make big, wide, sweeping change. You actually only have to do some small things, and you'd be surprised at the results that it can bring.
But what's the attribution of the quote? Like who?
Oh, I don't know, to tell you the truth.
Okay.
I don't know. No.
Because I was like, it's a good one.
You'll have to Google it, Michael. That has the answer for everything.
What have you read, watched, or learned recently that's had the most impact on you?
Yeah. So the book that I read most recently is called The Fearless Organization by Amy Edmondson, and it's about psychological safety in the workplace. So a safe environment where we all understand that we're human, that mistakes get made. It's about how you report them and how you learn from them. So psychological safety, really interesting, very, very interesting. They followed the path of a number of emergency units in the US and about reporting, you know, obviously patient error and things like that. And it was very interesting, their findings of what they found out about this psychological safety.
Okay. Is there anything accounting firms can take away from that book?
Oh, absolutely. That it's okay to make a mistake.
Well, it's hard when you're an accountant.
Check out perfection at the door.
What books should accountants be reading?
Look, I love there's a good old traditional one. I love the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I love it. It's a classic. I also think if you've never read The E-Myth by Michael Gerber, that's another good one.
That's a good one for advisor and coaching.
Yes, it is, and for clients as well. If a client is actually interested in reading something, it's a relatively quick and easy read. What else? And of course, then if we're thinking about leadership, I'm a big fan of Simon Sinek. So
last question: who would you want to have a drink with the most in the world, past or present?
Now, oh my gosh, I think. Well, there's probably two. Can I have two? Am I allowed to say?
You can have two. You can have a little cocktail party.
Okay. So the first one would be Marie Curie, and the second one is Oprah.
Very different kind of people.
Yes, very different, but women that obviously have been on journeys and forging their own way, and I'd really be interested to find out what their motivations were, because both their lives weren't, you know, all. They had their struggles, and so I'd love to, you know, I appreciate drive and motivation, and when you're up against all odds, how do you keep going? So
Okay.
find that very, and
I
they
like
did
that.
some amazing things both in their own right.
100%.
Yeah.
Lynda, thank you so much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure.
You're welcome, Michael. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in and hope you enjoyed this episode. Please like our podcast and share it on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, or wherever it is you hang out so more people can benefit from these speakers. Also, please subscribe on our website so you get all of our latest episodes. And if there's anything else I can help you with, or you have speakers you'd love to hear from, or some feedback about the current episode, please feel free to send an email to michael@recruitmentexpert.com.au. Until then, take care, and I look forward to connecting with you in the future.